Well, we've just received some breaking news. The Foreign Secretary has said that over the last several weeks, Indian and Chinese military and diplomatic have been closed. Agreements have been arrived for disengagement as far as bilateral meetings are concerned. We are looking into the program of the Prime Minister as well. So that's the latest coming in right now. Akash joins us. Akash, over to you. Fill us in with more details.
Avantika, this is a big, in fact, statement coming from Ministry of External Affairs, where Foreign Secretary is talking about the kind of agreement between India and China, where they have reached on some sort of consensus as far as patrolling at the LAC is concerned. We know that how since 2020 we have engagement and escalation at several points, including Depsang and Nemchok. And, these 2 points specifically were a point of contention. But as of now, it has been coming from Ministry of External Affairs that some sort of, agreement has happened between India and China as far as patrolling is concerned. We know that how both the countries were unable to do patrolling at several points and, in fact, several traditional points. We know that how India has maintained that how they want, status quo as far as the positions are concerned. And we know that how our Jawans are very much deployed in the forward areas. In fact, engaged with the Chinese troops at many points where they are standing eye to eye. And now it has been coming from the Ministry of External Affairs, in fact, a confirmation on disengagement as well, where they are saying that agreement arrives at for patrolling arrangement, and this will be leading to a disengagement and resolution of issues. So it's a big update coming from Ministry of External Affairs, because this is one issue, which was somewhere affecting the bilateral relations between India and China. And we know that how in several sort of meetings where ministers from China, in fact, came to India and, in fact, had a meeting with Rajnath Singh. In that meeting, in fact, Rajnath Singh mentioned it categorically that without the normal relations at border and without normal military relations, we cannot go forward for the bilateral relations. But at this point in time, ahead of BRICS, this is one big breaking.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, Akash, I'll just come to you, Siddhant. The Foreign Minister, Mr. Jaishankar, had recently mentioned how 75% of disengagement issues with China had already been resolved. But do some more challenges remain for both the countries who also have a very complex relationship?
Well, look, right now what Foreign Secretary has confirmed to us, and let's just stick to that. And he said, and I quote, agreements have reached on the patrolling arrangements on India-China border. In fact, there were several questions which were asked to him regarding to give more detailed clarity, perhaps, of the areas and, some of the friction points between India and China, to which he did not answer. He again reiterated that the agreements have been reached on the patrolling agreement on India-China border. Now, in fact, this is perhaps the second big development as far as the standoff is concerned, which has been going on from 2020. In fact, before this, as you rightly pointed out, S. Jaishankar also indicated, perhaps saying that 75% of this disengagement is over, and both sides, through diplomatic and military channels, have been engaging with each other, perhaps to find a solution. But this particular development is perhaps a milestone as far as this the talks which have been going on from last so many years, that if there is an agreement that have been reached on the patrolling domain, then perhaps what is that agreement, what all areas it covers, and what is the design of it? That is perhaps something which maybe Ministry of Defense or Ministry of External Affairs would clarify once Prime Minister Modi will meet President Xi Jinping in Kazan. Right now, MEA is also not confirming the meeting between the two leaders, but since this particular development has been announced by Ministry of External Affairs, we could look at a possibility, or perhaps it paves the way for the meeting between the two leaders in Kazan. And, on one side where the India-Russia dialogue will dominate the PM's visit to Kazan, on the other end, we could expect the India-China, ties also to be the talking point, because since this is huge and this is a big, big development as far as India-China border issue is concerned.
Absolutely. Akash, you mentioned about the tensions persisting over the patrolling access as far as the line of actual control is concerned. Do we have any more information from the Ministry of Defense as to what really has been the agreement as far as patrolling points are concerned, and the talks that has seen this kind of advancement now?
But let me make it very clear that as far as, LAC is concerned, so we had several points in Eastern Ladakh sector. Specifically, after 2020, we had multiple points. In fact, at several points, we have buffer zone strategy working, where in fact we remember that how in 2022 at petrol point 17, we had disengagement, and after that a buffer zone strategy is very much working there. As far as current condition is concerned, so we know that how in February, 21st round of commander level talks have happened. And then, one diplomatic level talks have also happened last month. And possibly after that, this development has happened where, as Siddhant rightly mentioned, that nothing specific has come out as to, when we are talking about this patrolling, we are talking about Depsang area or Demchok area or specific point. But definitely when we say patrolling, so we know this for a fact that both the sides were unable to patrol their traditional points. Earlier from both the sides, patrol party used to go to a certain point and used to carry out the patrolling on a routine basis, but it got halted after 2020. Now, when it is about the current development, so Ministry of External Affairs is coming out with a point that yes, there is some sort of consensus between both the countries where they have reached an agreement as far as patrolling is concerned. We still don't know as to what would be the design of disengagement, if at all it is happening, and if at all it is happening at the remaining points.
But this is fantastic, isn't it, Siddhant? There have been so many friction points between India and China as far as the discussions are concerned. And we're also joined by CNN News 18's Zaka Jacob. Zaka, this development is coming right before the BRICS summit in Russia, where the Prime Minister is going to be meeting with all of these leaders. A big, huge breakthrough with India and China reaching agreement on the line of control issues.
Yeah, I think it is a huge development. It is a huge breakthrough. 2020, 4 years ago, Galwan happened. In June of 2020, we lost 20 Indian soldiers, and ever since, these friction points had come to dominate the India-China bilateral, so much so that the foreign minister had said that this is not a normal relationship anymore and we need to sit down and resolve these sticking points. There were 7 sticking points where there was confrontation, there was active eyeball-to-eyeball confrontation between Indian and Chinese troops. For the last 4 years, there are 50,000 troops on each side across the line of actual control. Out of those 7, up until a few days ago, up until the 21st meeting of the military commanders, the co-commanders happened, 5 out of those 7 points had been resolved. The last 2 points, which were Depsang and Demchok, and these are critical, these are age-old disputes between India and China along the line of actual control. Both sides had claimed Depsang and Demchok. The fact that 2 days before the Prime Minister travels, in fact, 1 day before the Prime Minister travels to Kazan for the BRICS summit, the fact that the Foreign Secretary, no less, has gone on record in a press conference and said that all 7 friction points are now resolved. And not just that, he's gone further and said that the patrolling, which Indian troops used to do up to finger point 8, which had been stopped after Galwan, in fact, even in the run-up to what happened in Galwan, the whole patrolling had stopped. China was trying to impose some kind of a new normal in the patrolling. Now, Vikram Misri, the Foreign Secretary, has said that patrolling, they've also resolved the issues around patrolling.